Hello again. How are you, comrades? Today I'm going to read the first chapter of a book that I'm writing called Lightbringer, and it's just a fantasy adventure book. This is my main project. So last time before I started the video I showed you my cat Lizard, and this time I'm going to call my cat Puppy, and this is how I call her, with paper. Check this out. Hi. Hey, Puppy. She can play catch. Check this out. And she can play fetch. Watch. Come on, pup. Puppy. Atta girl. Drop it. Atta girl. Okay. So, I'm going to read the first paragraph, first chapter of Lightbringer. Lightbringer, concerning the tale of the good Prince Gorazane, hero of the two worlds. Genesis void. Chaos clashed among the cosmos, a primordial force that engulfed all of existence, but even during this tumultuous time, fantastic wonders came into being. A great Leviathan, amidst an even greater expanse, began undergoing miraculous changes. Among the momentum that soon became a world, awesome marvels began to take place. From the primal essence that swirled betwixt the foundations of the globe, life began to spring up, claiming small victory and gaining purchase in a world fresh from the forge. Ages passed, mere blinks in a cycle everlasting. In that time, sentient creatures had grown to a capacity that brought the world around them into full bloom. It was a vernal realm, and in it things thrived. The eons that passed only brought further animation into a world first devoid of movement, other than the raging tempests of its molding. The seeds of chance mixed with the blessing of vitality now gave birth to an eclectic array of creatures. Some were willed into the world, while others were created by their predecessors. Some were fashioned from the elements around them, and others evolved yet. Creations mingled with others, producing far-reaching results. The world was erupt and teeming with a brilliant defiance that began the myriad races among its canvas. The most sapient and prestigious of these creatures called themselves Ultres. The world in which they shared they called Gaeteravern. In all ways that could be measured, they were more cunning and powerful than any of the creatures that strode, crawled, flew, or swam upon Gaeteravern. The Ultres could do nearly anything if they so willed it. Their incredible feats were performed as if they were the most simple of tasks. They were what some would call gods. They took to teaching other races, instilling knowledge in them. Beasts became thinking, cultured things once they reached a certain understanding under the guidance of the Ultres. Some chose to even walk like their bipedal masters and use language to depict their thoughts. Speaking was not the only means of communication, but it was the most rudimentary of all ways, and all the denizens of Gaeteravern indulged in it. Some creatures remained untamable, taking an unleashed path, wild and instinctive. The Ultres became the guides and shapers of Gaeteravern, and as such created another race in which to share their secrets and teach their ways. These students were made in likeness of their Ultres creators. Sharp-eared, fleet of foot, and keen of eye, they were granted an affinity with nature. These apprentices were given the name Aelzorn. They were fair and just custodians, never exacting their given power for self-gain or to meet ill ends. It was a peaceful and enlightening time for all the creatures upon the fertile and abundant realm. Like all ages wrought of light, they are only measured so against the darkness that ends it. It was only a matter of time before the inhabitants of Gaeteravern fell beneath shadow. There were no strictures set, no code of living for the races and species to follow, but even the natural ways of all were soon put to the question by one. A free-thinking male of Ultres origins found himself in a state of unrest. Ealzamov he was called, and a catalyst he was. One moment. Be right back. Need some tea. Dun dun dun, that guy, right? He believed that all creatures were separate from the Ultres. He believed that all creatures separate from the Ultres were lesser beings, needing to be wholly governed and shepherded to the will of their own. It was an unspoken pact among the brethren of Gaeteravern that all shared their world with each other, and all gained or forfeited liberties equal to their limitations. Ealzamov's captivating nature and capability of turning others to his side with his alluring and promising sentiments soon gained him an audience with other Ultrays and Aelzorn, including some of the other races who found truth in his words. Soon that audience became followers. It wasn't long until admiration developed into full-fledged worship. The once untainted planet, which had known no sense of strife other than its rampant elements, was now divided. The Ultrays did not abandon their brother Ealzamoth, for they were a loving race. Neither did they alienate him, for he was part of their own. Nor did they pay his dreams any heed, for he was astray and believed he could be saved. And when he had slain a creature who was in opposition to his beliefs, he was not banished. Their amity for other beings was as strong as any for their own, and from it they found patience for their lost one. Only when he had murdered one of his own, kindred of the Ultrays, did they begin to know fear. The dwellers of Gaeterivern turned to Huronin, for he was brother to Ealzamoth, and where the Ultrays' rogue had become twisted and lost, Huronin had stayed righteous. He had gained respect from all the races upon Gaeterivern, for his power was fantastic and his hand was ever benevolent. Huronin thought long and hard of how to deal with the matter of his wayward sibling. When next ill tale was told of Ealzamoth, Huronin became enraged. The wicked Ultrays had now begun killing for sport, something that was unheard of and unthinkable at the time. Huronin thundered down from his sanctuary to confront his brother, and with him brought the Aelzorn, Aefel, for he was a loyal and sharp creature. His estranged brother also had an Aelzorn present beside him, wrapped in a hood. Huronin tried appealing to any shred of sensibility that his brother might still have had. Ealzamoth saw this as a sign of weakness and struck. The battle lasted only until Ealzamoth understood that his chances of besting his brother were non-existent, for his power was pure might and valor, whereas his own was forged from deceit and trickery. Defeated, Ealzamoth fled to the east, taking his faithful with him. There were several from the various races that followed their master into exile, and there was no attempt to stop their course, for they were now too deeply joined to salvage. Huronin returned silently, yet victorious, while honest Aefel spread word among the races of what had taken place between the feuding brothers. Once again, the land Gaeterivern slipped into a peaceful state, the shadow of Ealzamoth becoming a distant memory, pushed aside for welcome tidings. An age passed, and with it came a great celebration, for Huronin had taken an Aelzorn partner, and she bore him a beautiful son. He they called Gorazane, and a beacon he was. An epoch of serene grace coiled its tranquil tendrils around the inhabitants of Gaeterivern, and in that time Gorazane, son of Huronin, had become a quizzical and inquiring lad. But unlike the Ultrays Ealzamoth, he sought not to change the world around him, but to find truths and mysteries that sated his ravenous penchant for discovery. As it was, Gorazane was the first child born from Ultrays and Aelzorn heritage, but he was not the only. Another child of likewise blood was born shortly after Gorazane. The mother of this Ultrays Aelzorn died during childbirth, but not before giving her son the name Romaldus. He was raised by his father, an Ultrays by the name of Rajay-Dun, comrade to Huronin, and he was a stern and solemn being, raising Romaldus with a severe countenance. Very rarely did he hear his father utter a word of satisfaction involving his deeds, though it did not deter him from vying for his love. A deep friendship developed between Romaldus and Gorazane, and with it a healthy rivalry was born. They spent days exploring the world around them, climbing high the cliffs that broke the clouds, swimming the depths of feral seas, and roaming the gaping caverns of Gaeterivern, all of which housed remarkable beasts, those untamable creatures that had stayed degenerate and had proven unchangeable. Dangerous and fierce they were, but the Ultrays Aelzorn duo found adventure in those perilous times, escaping most times with but their lives, smiling and jesting afterwards. They would plummet from colossal mountains aback Wyventhrin, ferocious dragon-like beasts, and ride the air currents for days, only to come down and spend their nights among the company of Aelzorn maidens, who would treat their wounds, small and large. Oftentimes in solitude, aside from Romaldus, Gorazane would lay with his head to the earth and ponder about the heavens above. He would voice his uncertainty about the great starry sky, never fully satisfied with his friend's half-hearted answers. A cobalt and milky lantern hung high in the star-strewn sky, and that was the focus of Gorazane's thoughts almost always. It was a satellite of Gaeterivern, a world apart, and from it came a great beckoning. There was its counterpart, the fiery body, which shone its light and gave its warmth to his own world, but that did not concern him, or capture him the way the other celestial orb did. Passion on the verge of obsession filled him to his very core. It was an unnameable feeling, yearning beyond imagination. During their youthful quest, Gorazane would sometimes become distant, and Romaldus would know then that his friend's thoughts were elsewhere. Sometimes he would glance furtively at his troubled friend and see him staring skyward. Keep going.
5 minutes.
It wasn't long before Gorazane began devising plans to fulfill his reverie. He wandered the globe, gathering knowledge and power that would send him on his way, and Romaldus followed. From the Avorials, great birds and masters of the sky, did he learn the secrets of the thermals, the rules governing all winged creatures. For their lessons did they make Gorazane swear an oath that he would never harm any creature that took to the skies, and this he promised. From Nemrinth, a water deity and lord of the blue domain, did he become able to rely on small amounts of oxygen, like the aquatic beings of Gaitaravern. His secrets he gave up simply, for he was eager and excited to have a land walker in his watery dominion, to tell tales of the surface world. All these principles and more did Gorazane learn, for his Wyventhran flights had given him a very minute taste of the scale of space, giving him insight of the arcane knowledge he would need in order to traverse the starry territory above Gaitaravern. It was harder to breathe far above, as it was also cold. Closer to the sun, and it became exceedingly hot. To neutralize the sun's fiery portion of his travel, he would have to learn the essence of things cold. For this he found the Prince of 1,000 Winters in the frozen wastes of the great northern reaches. Prince Aldenbraxus bartered his secrets for a chalice each of warm blood from both Gorazane and Romaldus. This they gave with ease and offered no question. But when they wandered into the kingdom of fire, they met challenge. The mistress of eternal blazes met them cordially, and beautiful she was, brilliant and of scorching appeal. It was she that they asked for the secrets of things burning, but her father, Pyrotheses, king of immortal infernos, appeared at her side, angered that his daughter would divulge such enigmas so easily. For a portion of his power he would grant if only Gorazane proved himself worthy. The young Ultres Aelzorn agreed, and battle ensued. Pyrotheses lashed out at Gorazane, who retreated, behind a great wall of ice that he had created through the secrets of Aldenbraxus, Prince of 1,000 Winters. The Fire King laughed heartily as the frozen blockade began to melt rapidly. Gorazane did not waver, for he had a plan. When the king increased his fiery assault, so did Gorazane with icy attempts. The fire atop Pyrotheses' head burned intently as the battle waged on. Gorazane increased his frozen shield to encompass the cavern's rocky ceiling above. Soon enough Gorazane was the one laughing, and Pyrotheses looked confused. Gorazane patted the top of his head, rather pleased, and the king mimicked his motion. The king of immortal inferno stood crownless, the melting water from the icy roof above dripping rhythmically, extinguishing the weaving of flame that perched above his brow. A broiling swoosh that was the great king's laughter echoed through the volcanic caverns like wildfire. He had been bested by this fleshy creature, and had suffered the loss courteously. His daughter watched from the edge, completely enamored by his father's defeater. Romaldus laughed good-heartedly, commending his friend's victory. The king, once again adorned with crown of flame, instilled a series of images into the mind of Gorazane, showing him all he needed to know concerning fire. It was a way of communicating, and as fire was as wild and ever-changing thing, words could not express its technique. Gorazane smiled, and the good king vanished, leaving only the embers of his aftermath. Before they departed, the mistress of eternal blazes walked to the side of Gorazane and whispered into his ear. She bent to his ear and whispered her name, Iliora, and with it gave him a blessing. Gorazane nodded his head when she left his ear. She had given him the ability to never be consumed by fire, never to be burned by its touch, but she had asked one small token of him, that from henceforth, when any of his beloved passed in flesh from this world, he would build a funeral pyre, and lay their body among it so that fire could claim it. She kissed him tenderly on his cheek and disappeared in a flurry of flame. Romaldus looked on, a look of mild jealousy passing over his eyes. Her word was true, for he was not burned by her touch, though his heart smoldered slightly. With the potent secrets now collected, Gorazane began the trek homeward, Romaldus ever faithful at his side. Done. Done, sucker.